Hey everyone, I'm Jaden.
And I'm Noah.
We are the Super Gamer Bros, and this is the Super Gamer Bros podcast. We're just a couple of brothers who love playing games and love talking about games, so that's what we do. And today, Noah, I'm actually pretty excited for this one. We are talking about Portal 2.
I'm also excited. Portal 2, when we were kids, we owned the orange box, but we only ever tried Team Fortress 2 a couple times and then tried Half-Life once, but we never really got into it. It wasn't until Portal 2 that we really gave this series a chance.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, I still have never played the first Portal game.
I've not played it either, actually. I mean, they
Yeah.
kind of cover the story in the second game.
Well, yeah, no, you're correct. I mean, the story in the first is very simple. Like, I think the game itself is only like 3 to 4 hours long, and it's the story is very, very simple compared to Portal 2. But obviously, like that's yeah. I mean, it was just a shorter game. But yeah, originally came out on PC and then was released on consoles in the orange box, which was basically a collection of Valve games. And yeah, we'd played a tiny, the barest bit of Half-Life, and I mean, a bit of Team Fortress 2. But we were still excited when Portal was announced, Portal 2, because one thing that they very much showed off in the trailers, kind of as the big selling point for the game, was the fact that it is co-op. There's a big co-op element.
As many of you know, we are great proponents of co-op. It is a kind of a dying facet in modern games, I've felt like, but in the last 2 years or so, it's kind of been revived a bit.
Yeah.
Um,
Specifically, even couch co-op is still, I would say, a
yeah,
dying
couch co-op
facet.
is on the way out no matter what, but I still would like cooperative only multiplayer story-based games, and there still aren't a lot of those.
That is correct. But yes, obviously we played Portal 2. It's a great game, and now we're talking about it. So let's just go ahead and get into it. So for the setting, backstory kind of thing, the Portal series shares a fictional universe with the Half-Life series. The events in Portal, the first Portal game, take place between the first and second Half-Life games, while most of Portal 2 is set, quote, a long time after the events in Portal and Half-Life 2. Yeah, sort of at the beginning of Portal 2, there's like something that mentions like how many days have passed basically between the two games, and it's a long time. Like I can't remember exactly, but it's like hundreds of years have passed between the first and second Portal games.
Confusing.
I mean, it's just whatever. I don't know. Anyway, so before Portal, Aperture Science conducted experiments to determine whether human subjects could safely navigate dangerous test chambers until the artificial intelligence GLaDOS, which was governing the laboratory, killed its employees. At the end of the first game, the protagonist Chell destroys GLaDOS and momentarily escapes the facility, but is dragged back inside by an unseen figure, later identified by writer Eric Wolpaw as the party escort bot. A promotional comic showed estranged Aperture Science employee Doug Ratman, who used graffiti to guide the player in Portal, placing Chell in suspended animation to save her life until the beginning of Portal 2. And yeah, she was in that animation for hundreds of years.
See,
Hundreds
that
of
part's
years.
confusing.
How so?
Like, why did she need to be put into cryosleep?
That's a good point. I don't really know.
Anywho,
yeah, that's kind of the background information. But really, I mean, we played Portal 2 without knowing any of that, and I would say it honestly does not affect your knowledge of the story. I mean, not knowledge, like the experience of the story too much to not know that information. Anyway, so the story in the Aperture Science facility, Chell wakes in a stasis chamber resembling a motel room. The complex has become dilapidated and is on the verge of collapse. Wheatley, a personality core, guides her through old test chambers in an attempt to escape. They accidentally reactivate the dormant GLaDOS, who separates Chell from Wheatley and begins rebuilding the laboratory. GLaDOS subjects Chell to new tests until Wheatley helps her escape again. They sabotage Aperture's manufacturing plants, then confront GLaDOS and perform a core exchange, replacing her with Wheatley as the laboratory's controller. Wheatley, driven mad with power, attaches GLaDOS's personality core to a potato battery. GLaDOS tells Chell that Wheatley was designed as an intelligence dampening core, producing illogical thoughts created to hamper her own intelligence. Infuriated, Wheatley accidentally drops Chell and GLaDOS through an elevator shaft to the laboratory's lowest levels, which are abandoned. Chell retrieves the potato battery, and they form a reluctant partnership to stop Wheatley before his incompetence destroys the facility. Ascending through laboratories built in the 1950s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, they discover audio recordings by Aperture Science founder Cave Johnson. The recordings reveal how Aperture slowly lost money and prestige, and that Johnson was poisoned by moon dust used to manufacture portal conductive surfaces. His last request was for the mind of his assistant Carolyn to be transferred, by force if necessary, to an advanced computer designed to store a human consciousness, which he had previously commissioned for himself, which created GLaDOS. GLaDOS is troubled by this discovery. Chell and GLaDOS return to higher levels and navigate Wheatley's distorted test chambers, where they discover the facility is on the verge of collapse. Chell attaches 3 corrupted personality cores to Wheatley to force another core exchange and restore GLaDOS as its controller. However, Wheatley destroys the button needed to start the transfer, and the facility is close to self-destruction. When the roof collapses, Chell places a portal on the moon. She and Wheatley are pulled into the vacuum of space while GLaDOS reasserts her control. Chell holds on to Wheatley, who is still attached to the other side of the portal, and GLaDOS detaches Wheatley, sending him into space, and retrieves Chell. When Chell awakens, GLaDOS claims to have learned of humanity from the remnants of Carolyn, but deletes Carolyn's personality. Deciding that Chell is not worth the trouble of killing, GLaDOS frees her from the facility, which it ends with her going up an elevator. She steps out into this kind of field, and that's the end of the game. And because Valve hates everyone, there has been no update to her story since Portal 2 came out.
I'm sure that's not why. I'm sure it's because they've made enough money off of their old games and everything else they have that they don't need to make anything.
Yeah, and they hate people. We're saying the same things here. We're saying the same thing.
But 2 amazing plot threads in this game. First of all, I normally don't like rehashing an old villain, like the villain from the first game, and bringing them back. But then having a second villain take over and the old villain becomes a protagonist, that's genius. I love that plot line.
Yeah, no, it's really cool. Having GLaDOS as the potato battery is connected to your portal gun, as she kind of she's always commenting on things, and kind of like that eye in the sky voice kind of thing. And she's fun. The game is very well written, because initially you also have Wheatley, who's kind of doing that same thing, and yeah, it's very well written. And both of the personality cores, GLaDOS and Wheatley, are very witty and fun.
Yeah. The other plot line that I love is the artificial intelligence of GLaDOS, because I like the fact that she learns about this other personality and then rejects it.
I get you.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. No, I think that's cool. It's certainly, I don't know if common is a good word, but I have seen it a lot, where you have AI that is always based on a real person, and they don't know that a lot. Again, in experience from content that I have seen / played, whatever, and it's always fun to me seeing them kind of make that discovery and sort of have a little identity crisis about who they are and what they're doing as an AI. It's one of those things of putting more kind of humanistic components into AI that I think is really interesting.
Right. It's one of the things that makes Portal such a fantastic game. The other thing that makes Portal a fantastic game is the puzzle solving. In essence, the gameplay of Portal is strictly revolving around puzzle solving. There are some scenes that resemble combat, but they're really just puzzles when you boil it down.
Yeah, I mean, this is a puzzle solving game. That's what it is.
It is, but it's one of the best puzzle solving games to ever exist. First of all, the portal function, right? The portal gun, the entire premise of the game So you can only shoot certain areas that allow portals to connect them. To portals of varying colors, and the co-op player has a different set of colors.
Oh, don't talk about the
And
co-op player yet.
oh, I'm sorry. Scratch that. So the game consists of using portals and various tools around the environment to solve puzzles, unlocking the next room, right? So you just go room to room solving puzzles.
Yeah. And
Um,
it's worth noting, because I didn't know necessarily how to describe it, but in Portal, because that is all that the Portal 1 is. In Portal 2, when you go into the lower levels and you're exploring, it's like it's a less obvious version of that same concept. Like, you are still solving puzzles to unlock new areas, but it's not like, the test chambers where you're in this clearly defined puzzle solving space. It's more open.
it's immersive.
Yeah.
Anywho, so the tools here are defined as like light bars, cubes, lasers, launch pads, just different like gameplay mechanics that will be in different puzzle
Yeah.
areas.
So, like, the light bars can be used as like bridges, and also can like block turrets from shooting you, because turrets are kind of the only enemies you face in the game. And then you have cubes and lasers. So lasers, used to like activate switches. The cubes, there are different types of cubes. There are like your basic cubes, and then there are cubes that kind of have like glass holes. I wouldn't say they're mirrors. They're more like windows, I guess, that you use to redirect lasers. And obviously launch pads are launch pads. Your kind of standard cubes, you just put them on buttons. They're like just weighted button pressing things, like in any game where you ever have to like press a button.
Right.
That's the tools.
So, aside from these, Portal 2 also added different goos with different effects. So, these are like a substance that Aperture was experimenting with, and there's 3 different kinds. All right, so there's blue, orange, and white. Blue is bouncy, so if you step on it, you get launched. Orange is kinetic, so it gives you your character a lot of momentum. And then white is it allows you to place portals on it. So you put the white goo on places where portals can't go, and then they can.
Yeah. It's it's really cool because Portal 2 is very much kind of split in half, where the first half you're in the test chambers going up against GLaDOS as normal, and then when Wheatley takes over, you're in just kind of random parts of the lab trying to make your way back up to where Wheatley is. And it's really cool. You have a lot of different environmental puzzles of trying to get the goo where you need to go. Like, you need to have orange goo. Like, you use portals to splash orange goo on this surface, to then splash like blue and splash white, to then use a lot of momentum based puzzles is the word I'm looking for, which is definitely very different from the first game.
Yes, but different in a good way.
No, in a good way. It's just adding more puzzle variety with the different goos.
Right.
So
I thought they were fun, although some of the puzzles with the goos could be challenging.
Absolutely. We definitely struggled a lot with the puzzles in this game.
I mean, I feel
Yep.
like we didn't have to look up a lot as opposed to normally in games.
In the story, you're correct. Co-op. Well, I mean, I guess we speaking of co-op, because I guess let's just get into it. The co-op campaign. So again, a big part of this game when it was advertised was the co-op aspect, co-op campaign. So the cooperative story takes place after the single player campaign, but players are not required. Like, you're not required to play the single player before playing cooperative, because we didn't. You can play them in whatever order you want. So player characters Atlas and Peabody are bipedal robots who navigate test chambers together, each with a fully functioning portal gun. After completing a test chamber, the robots are disassembled and reassembled at the next chamber. After completing each set, they are returned to a central hub. The puzzles in each of the tests focuses on a specific element or puzzle-solving technique. In the first 4 sets, GLaDOS prepares the robots to venture outside of the test systems of Aperture Laboratories to recover data disks. She destroys the characters and restores their memories to new bodies. At first, GLaDOS is excited about her non-human test subjects, but later becomes dissatisfied because the 2 robots cannot truly die, and at one point also gets uncomfortable with their close partnership. At the end of the story, the robots gain entry to the Vault, where humans are stored in stasis. GLaDOS gives thanks to the robots on locating the humans, whom she sees as new test subjects, and the game ends. So yeah, a lot of, there are each set of tests in multiplayer do focus on different aspects. Like, some focusing more on momentum based puzzles, some focusing more on like, like kind of using different elements, like maybe some are more light bar focus. So you have like a light bar in every test, or you have launch pad. They're all kind of centered around a central theme, which is really cool. And obviously the cooperative aspect of you need two people to solve a lot of these puzzles.
Yeah, I thought they did a wonderful job of transforming the single player puzzle solving mechanic to a co-op and making it still difficult because having two portal guns makes solving puzzles much easier. Like, you can kind of mess with the game a lot because the portal function is tricky and there's a lot of ways to nearly break it, right? That being said, I thought the puzzles were still quite difficult for the two of us. Like Jaden said, we had a lot of trouble solving them quickly. That being said, I don't think we had to look them up.
No, it's just, they take time. You have to figure them out. There's a lot of which I mean is a good thing in a I mean, 'cause you can't die, obviously. I mean, you can, but then you just respawn. But it is an aspect of like there's a lot of trial and error trying to figure things out. And even when you do figure things out, sometimes, it's like a timing issues you might have. So, just something you're always working on.
True, true.
Yeah, it's a fun little story. The two robots are fun. They're given their like different personalities, and you can interact with the player because they did include considering the game did initially have online play. So hypothetically, assuming you weren't playing in the same room with someone, they also give you a lot of the ability to like tag items as important, or kind of just get your partner's attention so you can solve these puzzles together without being able to communicate verbally, which is a very I think a very a good thing that they added in there. And yeah, I mean that's the gameplay of Portal. There's not really too much to get into there.
No, there's not a lot of content without talking about specific puzzles or scenes, but that's just too much to dive into. Basically, this was one of my favorite short puzzle solving games I've ever played. It's certainly the best game with a portal mechanic, and I would highly suggest that anybody pick it up and try it at some point.
Yeah, I can absolutely agree with the best Portal game. I honestly don't even think there's a close second that I can think of at the top of my head.
The only other one I know right now is Splitgate because I played it recently.
Anyway, so then yeah, that moves us on to our notable trophy section. I don't really have any. It was a long time ago that we originally played this game, and but like before we cared about trophies, and the platinum is unobtainable now due to servers being shut down. Because there are two, despite the fact that the multiplayer can be played offline, there are two trophies specifically that require you to play online, and we obviously never did that.
It's unfortunate when this happens. This has happened to Jaden and I a couple times when trying to platinum a trophy. Trying to get a platinum trophy. I mean, this happened to me recently when I was trying to platinum Mad Max, which is one of my favorite games. I'm sure we'll talk about eventually. But
no,
that
no,
has
no,
a
no.
trophy.
Hold on. No, I have to make sure that everyone knows that's
It
never
will
gonna happen.
happen.
No, it's not happening.
It's literally in my top 3 games of all time.
Portal 2, that's impressive.
No,
That's
Mad
I
Max.
didn't know you liked Portal 2 that much, man.
All right, all right.
It's cool though. It's cool. I dig it. I dig it. You
Yeah,
you
Mad
have that opinion.
Max
Yeah, Portal 2.
has one of those trophies that I could not get because the online servers were down.
It's incredibly annoying. I hate them. Any like we've said before, fierce proponents against having any trophies that require online connectivity because servers they can't be open forever. And some games, the servers stay open for a long time, which I guess it's like because some games, the servers are up for over a decade sometimes. And it's like, I guess, yeah, if you didn't get the platinum, in a decade, then you can't complain about it, I guess, but I still will. I'll absolutely complain about it.
No, I think they should be something that's like attainable no matter when you're playing the game on that system.
That is correct. I agree with you. Especially in the example of like Portal 2, I guess, it has an online component of, the co-op campaign, obviously, but like a game like Mad Max, there's not really there's no online gameplay. The trophy that you get that requires online gameplay, you're still doing it in single player. It's just this one thing you have to be connected online for. And it's something that like, because I did research into it when you were playing and you said, oh, I can't get it. I was like, Noah's not as trophy savvy as I am. Let me do my research. And it was like, oh no, it's straight up like, and it's annoying because, yeah, it's something that I feel like it's an aspect of the game I feel like should not even require online anyway. And it's annoying, whatever. And
We'll
Portal,
talk about that another time.
no, I don't think we will. Portal 2 has that, it has a co-op campaign that is online. So having online trophies is not unbelievable, like ridiculous, I guess is a better word. But at the same time, there should not be online trophies in games ever. And it's a shame this platinum is unobtainable now.
There could be online trophies, but they can't count towards the platinum, maybe.
I feel like that is actually very doable. I think that if you're gonna have online trophies, I
Yeah,
think
we
you
could have
should
like
do
a
that.
separate category.
Well, yeah, it's like separate lists. Like DLC trophy lists are separate; they don't affect the platinum. I think that's maybe
Exactly.
something that is it. Game developers, I know, like all the game developers listen to this podcast. If you do online trophies, do that. Make it separate from the platinum, because I feel like trophies and achievements exist as basically like celebrating your accomplishments in single player aspects of games that didn't exist, like back on, say, even the original Xbox, when Halo 2 kind of like is one of the first games featuring Xbox Live multiplayer. It's like you could see how good a person is online if you look at their kill death ratio, their like medals they've achieved, all their all of those stats. But for single player, that didn't exist until achievements existed. So that is, I think, like a reason that achievements exist is it's a way to show people, hey, like I put time into this game. I'm good at this game. Here's my proof, platinum trophy, or 1,000 points in Xbox. And yeah, having online trophies, I feel like completely defeats that purpose, especially because most online trophies aren't skill based anyway, like the ones in Portal 2. There's no skill involved. It's just play the game with a friend, pretty much. So that's I'll get off my trophy soapbox.
I was gonna say that's our soapbox.
Yep. I'm very passionate about my trophies, Noah. You know this. Also, trying to make this episode at least a bit longer.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that moves us on to our questions. Favorite moments, Noah?
My favorite moments were coming across a new mechanic in the puzzles. Like the first time we would come across a light bar, it took us forever to figure out how we were supposed to use this mechanic. But then playing single player, because I had already learned it, but there's also a tutorial section where they show you how to do it. So they don't have that in the co-op. It's meant for you to like already understand all the mechanics.
Yeah, I think the game is definitely designed mechanics wise to have you play the single player first. Like there are some tutorial elements of multiplayer, but that mainly revolves around trying to work with another person versus the actual mechanics themselves. Usually they're just introduced and you have to know how you do them.
Right.
My favorite thing is learning about the past. Portal 2 is one of the earliest games I can remember absolutely getting obsessed with the lore. Because the story, when we had started it, because it was we played through it, and a friend of ours, there were three of us, we would kind of just take turns whenever. I remember I wasn't too into it in the beginning. Like I didn't like Wheatley initially, and I didn't like GLaDOS, obviously one of the most recognizable video game characters, most iconic video game characters of all time, I feel like. But at the time, I didn't know who GLaDOS was, so I didn't have that, like when she's first introduced and stuff, that wasn't a moment of like, oh my god, it's GLaDOS for me. It was just like, oh, who is this? And so the first part, just going through the test chambers, I was like, oh, this is just the multiplayer, but with one person. Is that all the game is? That's kind of, okay. But then, you go into the basement and like the sewers, you're looking at the remnants of the past of Aperture Science, and you're hearing the Cave Johnson audio like files and stuff and learning about the past of Aperture in this world. And that is when I really got hooked onto Portal 2.
Wow, that was a tangent.
I don't think that was a tangent at all. That was answering the question.
I mean, the angle I'm witnessing in front of me, it's tangential.
Oh, you're doing your math homework again during the podcast?
Yes. Go to college, kids.
I it's a podcast. We're allowed to go on tangents.
I'm just joking.
I like
Um,
I liked your math joke. It was great.
thank you. Oh, I did want to say, a miscellaneous thing I like.
Uh-huh.
Something we obviously didn't really talk about very much, but the portal gun is one of the most enjoyable mechanics in any game I've played in recent memory.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe a quarter of our time was spent just messing around with the portals, with the,
Yep.
just going through them, looking at different things, seeing the
Yeah.
different angles, testing what we could break and couldn't.
Yeah,
And it was
like
just fun.
yeah, I agree. I'll also add to miscellaneous things I liked. Just the characters. We did kind of we didn't talk about the characters at all, but like really, but like the voice acting in this game is incredible. Wheatley, I don't know who voices Wheatley, but I mean he does. It's a like I think he's like a famous British comedian. But like Stephen Merchant maybe I don't know, but he's very good. He's very funny. He does that kind of like what would you say like goofy kind of like unwittingly goofy kind of thing very well.
It is Stephen Merchant.
Oh damn, I'm good. GLaDOS, Ellen McLean, obviously just very good. One of the most iconic video game characters of all time, very much in large part due to her wonderful performance. Cave Johnson, the founder of Aperture, voiced by J.K. Simmons. Yeah, they got a real famous person in there. And J.K. Simmons, his voice to me is just, it's a voice that I'm entertained by him no matter what he's saying, no matter who he is. And that kind of like asshole leader role is something he does a lot and does very well.
I love him.
And of course, Chell is just one of the coolest, most badass protagonists in any game ever. Like,
Also, shout out to female protagonists.
yeah, I mean, even just protagonists ever, like Silent does the same thing, but goes through all of these test chambers without dying, goes through the lab without dying. Like, she's gone up against a lot of shit and always comes out on top. And she does it without even a complaint. And that's just super respectable. Yeah, and that's miscellaneous things. Noah, what we didn't like about the game?
Probably the length, right? It's just too short.
Yeah, I was gonna say I absolutely agree with you. I do not like that it is so short. Especially I think it was a thing on PC only, which I honestly should have looked up, but the fact that we played it on PS3, I didn't think about it. I think you could like create your own maybe it was just a mod thing people did, but people could create their own levels, which is cool. But again, not available on console, whatever. But it is sad because there are just so many different puzzles you could do with these like with the same like small number of like tools that were in the game. And I mean just having the portal gun just gives you so many different options that I wish, like I feel like the game could easily have had twice as many puzzles and it still would not have felt at all repetitive or anything like that.
I agree.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, there's not really anything else I didn't like about the game. To be honest, sometimes the game could be a little glitchy, buggy, but it's very rare in my experience of playing Portal 2. And then replayability, it's a beat and delete.
Agreed.
Like it's just like, and really that's kind of the sad thing about puzzle games is no matter how good they are, once you already know how to solve the puzzles, why play through it again? You already know how to do everything. And it's not something that, can still be difficult, like say an FPS game where you still have to fight through all these enemies and you could play it on a harder difficulty. That's not something that exists for puzzle games. So it is like once you beat it, you're kind of done. Except with the passage of time and just forgetting it, I guess. Right, Noah?
Yeah, I mean, I could see playing it like in 10 years.
I don't know. I could see maybe playing it with like Haley and forcing her to solve all the puzzles while I just sit there.
That's not a bad idea.
Be good as I rip my hair out. Anyway, so there actually was official DLC for Portal 2. I'm pretty sure I did not research this, but I remember like maybe 3 or 4 years ago watching a guy on YouTube that I liked play through the game, the co-op campaign with a friend, and they were playing on PC, and I'm pretty sure that guy had mentioned that the DLC was PC only. So that's my only basis for saying that it's PC only. Peer review, a DLC co-op campaign that it's really funny. The story of that campaign is that it takes place 1 week after the closing of the co-op campaign, where GLaDOS has already killed every single human test subject that was in stasis there.
That is hilarious.
Yeah, in 1 week she killed all of them, and there are a lot. Like there are dozens and dozens, if not potentially even up to 100+ people. All of them are dead in a week. So she activates Atlas and Peabody again because there's some issue going on with the lab, and basically you just have to solve that issue. And yeah, that's
Does anything come out of it?
well, I mean, I guess at the end it turns out it was just a bird pressing buttons on a keyboard.
So no.
No, it was the same bird that tried to eat GLaDOS in the campaign, so she was afraid of it.
That's funny.
That's funny, but yeah, no, it's like it's not like it goes anywhere crazy or anything.
I don't know if we mentioned it, but the story is what makes this game good. It's so funny.
Like the main, like the single player or
The
both.
characters are funny. Both.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think I said that in the performances and stuff. It's great. Like the game is fine with just the puzzles and stuff. It'd still be a great game, but the characters really take it to the next level. Anyway, Noah, final thoughts on Portal 2.
Like I said, I would recommend it to anybody.
I completely agree. It's a great game. Get a friend that you're either okay with losing as a friend, or your friendship is so deep you think nothing will tear you apart, and play some co-op Portal 2. You didn't think that was funny, Noah? I thought it was funny.
I laughed in mute.
Oh, well, you can't laugh. You gotta laugh so they can hear you, so they know it's like the listeners know it's funny because you laugh at it.
No, this podcast is serious. We don't make jokes.
You made a joke not 20 minutes ago.
Welcome to the indie bit, the bit where we talk about indie games.
Yay!
Today, we're talking about Trover Saves the Universe. Let me sit here and tell you guys a little bit about Trover Saves the Universe. It is a Justin Roiland cash grab on Rick and Morty fans. In my eyes, that's what this is. I'm not meaning that in a bad way, but
Yeah, I got you.
it got me, true. But in my eyes, this is not a fantastic game. It's very simple. It's very inexpensive. So Trover is designed primarily for VR. And even though you can still play the game regularly, that still has a major effect on the game, because you play as a character who is called a chair Orpian, who is locked in a chair for the entire game, never gets up. And you just look around with one of the sticks and you move by teleporting to different designated teleport spots throughout the map. You are controlling a character named Trover, who basically guides you throughout this story, and he's how you fight and interact with the world and the other characters. But Trover still interacts with you, and the other characters interact with you because you are a character in the universe. Oh boy. All in all, I thought this game was funny, but I still think it's a bad game. I'm a fan of Rick and Morty, and I like Justin Roiland's humor. So I went into this game expecting to love it. And that was before I knew it was specifically designed for VR, and that put a huge damper on my time with the game. So all in all, I would say no. I came out not liking this game. Jada?
I don't like Justin Roiland. I don't like Rick and Morty. I don't like his humor. It's like Justin Roiland can do one thing, and Rick and Morty is so insanely popular, he does that one thing in everything else he does. It's like you said, you're literally playing alongside Trover / Morty, he's just Morty, and the big boss of the game is his name is I think Glucon/Rick. He's Rick. That's how that's the two voices he can do, and he does them for every single character he plays. And it's not even like it's Morty's voice, but he's a tough guy. It's Morty's voice and it's Morty. It's Rick's voice and it's Rick. It's not, a different character. They all act the exact same. And he has that same sort of writing style of like rambling/stuttering through phrases and throwing in insults every once in a while. I don't like it.
Actually, that part I love. I love how just natural it comes across, and it's still funny. But you're completely right. I was gonna say every character in this game is just another character he's done reskinned. It just is a different character model.
Like that's all he does.
Yeah.
That's it. And
it's sad. It's upsetting for me. I had hope. But I still think Rick and Morty is good. I still think he does have that one thing, but he does that thing well.
Sure. So yeah, and it's just annoying. Like even Haley is a big Rick and Morty fan, and she thought this game was annoying. She didn't like it because she said to me as I'm playing it, like it's just the same voices for everything. Like it's like there's no difference and they act the same. And I was like, yeah, that's what he does. That's his thing. Like the best person I could think to like compare him to would be like a Patrick Warburton, where Patrick Warburton, like he does a lot of voice acting in a lot of different things, but he's not like a professional voice actor that does different voices. He does the same thing. Or even you could say J.K. Simmons. But I think someone like Patrick Warburton gets away with it because one, all of his characters are different. Like, well, I'd say 3 reasons. One, all of his characters are different. Like, they don't all act the same. 2, he doesn't voice every single character in a given movie or show he's in. He only does one. Whereas Justin Roiland in Trover, I think literally voices every male character in the game. I wouldn't be surprised. And then 3, nothing that Patrick Warburton has done has been so insanely successful and popular that is what he is known for. Like, yeah, he's Joe Swanson and Family Guy. Yeah, he's Crunk and Emperor's New Groove. But you talk to 10 different people, you'll get a general mix over what they know him best for. Justin Roiland, Rick and Morty was so popular. That's it. That's what he's known for. That it forever, for the rest of history, if someone hears his voice in anything, they'll be like, oh, it's Rick and Morty. That's it.
That's true, but he's not a voice actor. He just voice acts it because it's his show. He produced it.
Yeah, I know that. But I'm saying like
he doesn't voice act in anything else.
I know, but I'm just saying but everything he creates, he voice acts in. So it's like, and again, it would be fine if he was one character in Trover. Say, like if he was Trover and that's it, it'd be like, okay, yeah, that's his character. But he voices every character, almost every character in the game, which is where I'm like, yep, okay, he's doing his Rick voice for that character. Okay, oh, there's his Morty voice for that guy. Okay, cool. It's just whatever. That being said, gameplay, I thought it was fine. I think they did the VR thing in a unique way of, you're basically controlling the camera as your character, and getting the ability to like move up and down to kind of play with what's it called, like perspective a bit, I think is very clever. They did a very clever way of implementing that, as well as the fact that the teleporting is the way that any VR game, like most VR games, works, because usually you're playing with like motion controllers and they're trying to make it as realistic as possible in terms of your movement, but obviously having you walk in VR is it's not something that can really be done yet without using a joystick, whatever, and that breaks the immersion of it. So I did think it was a very clever way to keep the game immersive, in a like a comedic way of, oh, like, no, see, you are in the world. You're just a guy who controls things with a controller and sits in a chair all day. That's all he does. So I thought that was very clever, a very clever thing. And controlling Trover, the gameplay, it's a simple platformer. You fight enemies. I thought it was fine. Like I got the platinum in the game because the actual gameplay itself, I thought, okay, like this is fine. Like with the exception of the writing, this is a fine game to play. I had fun playing it.
That's hilarious. I will have you know, when I first started the game, I did not know it was designed for VR.
I knew it was a
So when
VR game.
I told you ahead of time.
No,
But
I'm
when
saying
I, oh,
like when the game was first announced, I knew it was a VR game because it
oh,
was announced as a VR game, and
right.
I also knew that it was a platform. Like I knew you controlled Trover, like and you did platforming and fighting. I think because I just like
I
saw a
knew that.
trailer. I saw a trailer or something, and I remember wondering how a VR game worked out like that. Because there have been other VR platformers like Moss, PS is a PS VR game where you like control a little mouse or something platforming, but it's still VR. Like you view it like you're looking at him from third person. I don't know how it works in that game, but I think it is like the same concept as Rick and Morty, albeit done very differently. Or not, sorry, not Rick and Morty, Trover. Uh, but it's done differently. So I did think the very meta way of them doing it was funny.
Yeah, I thought that was hilarious. But what I'm saying is, when I started the game and I was a chair Orpian, right? And I'm
Yeah.
in the chair and it's like on the news, and then he busts into the house and he's like, all right, let's go. I was like, oh, when am I gonna switch to Trover? It took me so long to realize that like I'm just gonna be stuck in this chair
Yeah.
teleporting around for the whole game.
Yeah, I gotcha. Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, it was certainly interesting. And again, gameplay wise, I actually liked it. Using like, because eventually, you get the ability to like grab and move objects and stuff, and you do a little bit of puzzle solving, moving objects for Trover to then platform on. I thought a VR platforming game, this is probably as good as it gets. Like, maybe someone else can do it a little better, but in terms of how it controlled and stuff, I thought it was perfectly fine. Like, I had no issues with it. I didn't really have like any issues at all going through the game with the controls or anything. Yeah, I thought it was perfectly fine. Like my only negative aspect of the game is the story, writing, voice acting stuff.
Right. So, what is the next indie game?
The next indie game, Noah, is one that admittedly both of us have already played. But it is one of my favorite games of all time. And I was looking through our old episodes, like and seeing what all our indie bits were previously, and I was shocked we had not talked about it yet. We will be discussing Hotline Miami.
Oh, I can't believe we haven't talked about that either.
I know.
It
I
was
was
like one of those first really weird indie games I think we got into.
That is correct. And I was shocked having that we had never talked about it. So we're going to talk about it next episode.
That's exciting.
That is exciting. So don't forget, new episodes every other Monday. Rate and subscribe. Tell us if you like our show or tell us if you don't, and tell us why. Tell your friends and enemies about the podcast. You can follow our Instagram, the Super Gamer Bros, for updates on anything we do, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Super Gamer Bros, capital S, capital G, capital B, because we do stuff now. No, why don't you talk about our
Yay.
YouTube? Why don't you talk about our YouTube channel? Since you're kind of the leading force with that.
Okay, well, I guess on our YouTube channel for the time being, we're just posting like kind of like news stuff. We've done some like trailer reactions, talked about PlayStation Plus. In the future, I want to do a segment called Game Highlight where we're going to highlight specific games we're enjoying currently, and then some other stuff. So, we'll be posting every Friday is the plan so far.
Yeah, so yeah, go to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you want to see us do other things. And yeah, we'll see you guys next game.
Bye.